Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm working on an art journal page, so get comfy and let's get crafty. I'm working on the prompts for the May Mission Inspiration Facebook group, and the first weekly prompt for the month of May was nature. The second prompt was communicate. The third week was time. The fourth week was I'm dreaming, there we go. And the fifth week was metamorphosis. And I realize I'm really behind. I did create this in May, but well, we'll talk about that. So I've clipped all those down into one picture, and we're going to start with a piece of art journal paper or mixed media paper that is about 5.5 by 8.5. And I have this piece of scrapbook paper from my stash that is 12 by 12. But it has kind of some text and some flowers and butterflies and grasses. And it's just kind of my nod to the nature part of this page. So I'm going to go ahead and use my super ancient from back in the days of scrapbooking, paper tearing. I don't remember what they're called. It's a decal edge ruler, I think is what it's called. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and tear up this 12 by 12 paper, and we're going to chat and talk about the page and chat some more and talk about the page some more because, well, you know, it's a 15-minute video, so what else are we going to do? So I did film this in May, but May, okay, in May I had surgery, and 3 weeks after surgery, my youngest daughter, graduated from high school, which meant that 2 weeks after I had surgery, I had 2 sets of grandparents in my house. And then a week later, my younger 2 children were done with school. And then not even a week after that, I had my sister and her husband and their kids at my house for a month, which was wonderful. Plus, one of my adult daughters, who is a teacher in another state, came home and was home for a month. And we all went to the beach. And somewhere along the way, even though it was because I really didn't have time with all the people and all the recovery going on in my house. I didn't have time to edit the video, and I didn't have time to craft, which is how come in the last month I've had like almost no videos go up. And somewhere in that, I lost my oomph. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this torn paper to my art journal page. I did decide some of the pieces were a little bit big. I will be using liquid medium. I think this is the gloss medium, which is no big deal because I'm going to put other stuff over the top of it. So we're going to use gloss medium, liquid medium. It's gloss. So it's a liquid medium, meaning it's fluid, and it is glossy, meaning it will dry shiny. Okay. So anyway, as I was saying, I kind of lost my crafty mojo. And not because I was feeling burned out, but because I didn't have time, and then I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to make it, how to put it back together. So I had a couple of videos in my, like in the can, air quotes you can't see, like on my computer that had not been edited. So I started by editing those videos, but still, even the thought of sitting down to edit felt like something I shouldn't do while I had all of my wonderful family in town and my daughter and my sister, who I love and I want them to come always, and I will quit crafting if that means they come. Don't get me wrong. But because it is a kind of a time-consuming process, I felt like it was something I couldn't do when I was kind of hanging out with them, which, to be fair, my sister is so crafty, she would have sat right next to me and watched me do it. I mean, it was just a me thing, I think. But so in the middle of recovery and family and vacationing, we went to the beach and it was wonderful. I did kind of lose I realized I wasn't even watching my favorite crafty YouTube channels. Like I told my friend the other day, I haven't even been watching YouTube, let alone making stuff for YouTube. So it's kind of, it was kind of a big a shock to me. So now that I have most of the page covered in this kind of nod to nature scrapbook paper, I'm going to add some washi tape. And that's just because, well, I have it in my stash. And so I may as well use it. And it adds a little bit of a different, adds another layer. It adds some texture. It creates, it's just one more thing. One more thing to put on the page, especially when you don't know what to put on the page. Just break the background. So I am going over this washi tape with some of that fluid medium because washi tape does not have a permanent stick to it. And all of these washi tapes have varying colors on them. It's not something that will even really be noticeable in the end. So we're going to go ahead, add some washi tape. We're going to put the fluid medium over the top of it and just keep going until I feel. Now, these washi tapes all have leaves and flowers on them too. So that was all another nod to nature, right? The leaves and the flowers. So we're going to go ahead and heat set all that and make sure that the fluid medium is really dry so that it's going to be a little tacky, but it's not going to be wet. And then we're going to go ahead and trim off the edges with my long Tim Holtz shears. So like I was saying, it was a little bit of a shock to me that not only had I not been in my craft room, I hadn't been watching my crafting. And for me, being in my craft room is like my, it's my comfort place. All right, so we're going to add some dark blue. This is chipped sapphire, I think. And this kind of goes into the, this doesn't fit into any of the words for inspiration for this week. This was just something I kind of wanted to do. I'm covering up the places that were left white. I'm using my finger to kind of smear that paint around. I can't remember why I thought I would do this because, again, I made this in May and I edited it in July. So I will tell you that I love how the page turned out. And there's a couple things I think that maybe I would do different, but we'll talk about that later. So, and then I decided this was too dark. I do remember thinking, oh, that's really dark. And here's my camera starting to go out of focus again. And you know what's funny is I bought another camera and it happened with that too, so I returned it. I don't know if it's the lighting or how far away the camera is from my desktop or what, or how far zoomed in I had it. I don't know. But anyway, so I am pushing back that kind of chip sapphire, that bluish purple, the violet color with that white gesso. And I left it kind of thick. I'm not watering it down, and I'm using my finger instead of a baby wipe to make sure that it stays nice and thick. And I'm using that baby wipe to kind of remove it in some places. All right. So the next word of the month was communicate. And I found in my napkin stash this lighthouse napkin. And I thought, oh, this is perfect because, sorry, lighthouses are a form of communication. They're usually hey, danger, don't come any closer, but they are a form of communication. So I have separated that from its backing, and I have used the wet paintbrush method of cutting all the excess off. And I'm just picking off some of the edges. If I cut it with scissors, the edges don't hide as well on my page. So I am going to go ahead and put this lighthouse, that's the word I was looking for, down into the bottom left-hand corner with that same fluid medium. Put a little bit down on the page, and then I, with whatever was left in my brush, I just put it right over the top of that napkin. And then we're going to go ahead and heat set that. So I have nature and communicate down on my page now. I did decide to push that lighthouse back just a tad bit as well. It's not the focal image of my page, so I want it to be a nod to a layer and something you see in the background. And gesso does dry more translucent than a regular acrylic paint. So you'll still be able to see it, but it's not the thing. The next one is time. So for time, I pulled out this Tim Holtz clock face stencil and some black archival ink, and I'm using a blending brush to blend on those clock faces in a couple of different spaces. So when I realized that I had not only had I not been creating, but I hadn't been watching things be created, I decided it was time to kick myself in gear. I've had a couple of weeks to get my house back into whatever kind of summer normal is in our house. Like I'm getting up in the morning and taking my son to summer conditioning football and that kind of stuff. So we're kind of into a routine, and it's time to get back in my craft room. Now the fourth weekly word was dreaming. So I'm going to take some archival inks. I've got a purple. Is it purple? Yeah, purple, and a pink and an orange and a yellow. And I've got this cloud stencil. It's my favorite things, but like almost every company that makes stencils has a cloud stencil. You could also just make one with scissors. I'm using this cloud stencil and these archival inks to create clouds. And I'm using the darker colors or the sunset colors to create that illusion of nighttime to go along with that whole dreaming thing. And I'm just using ink blending sponge and wiping it off on a microfiber cloth in between colors. I'm adding clouds like to the whole part of the page. So once the clouds are added to this, the whole thing gives off that look of dream. You know how like when you're watching a movie and it kind of focus shifts kind of a little bit. It kind of really gives, I was so pleased. Let me tell you, I was so pleased with how this cloudy stencil worked and pulled out that whole nighttime dreaming, because with the clock faces and the texture in the background and the lighthouse and then the clouds on top of that, it really did add to that feeling of dreaming. And I loved it. I was so pleased because, you know, sometimes when you're crafting and when you're creating, what you see in your head, for me, what I see in my head does not always translate onto the page. And so I was very pleased that by adding the clouds to the top of these images, I did get that dreamlike look. And to further emphasize that dreamlike look, I've pulled out this star stencil. I think this is a Delusion stencil. And some gold shimmer paste. I think it's Lawn Fawn is this one. But again, any company that makes a texture paste probably has a gold. And you could even take a white texture paste and color it with a gold mica paint. So anyway, on to the fifth word. I used this, it's called A Collection of Ephemera for Art Journaling. It's Butterflies Volume 1. And it is from Marta at Miriam's Small Art here on YouTube. I love her mixed media and art journaling. But she's created these books that you can purchase off Amazon that have all of these wonderful collage pieces. And so I cut out this butterfly. And here is where the one thing on this page I think I would do different. I would choose a butterfly that had different colors so that there was a little bit more contrast. Except that I really love how the butterfly colors and the background colors are the same but different. So I don't know if I actually would or not. That's the one thing that maybe I think I could have done differently, but I don't know. When I look at the page, I'm like, no, I love it. So I decided instead of adhering the butterfly down all the way, I was going to put a little foam tape just behind the body and right next to the body so that the wings still kind of fluttered. So anyway, I'm back in my craft room. I'm trying to do things a little bit more regularly and get back I can't even think of the phrase, get back into the rhythm and the roll and get creating again, because it really is my happy place. So I pulled out my Tim Holtz Chit Chat stickers and I found a quote that says, "Never give up. We are fearless, independent, and original." And while using a butterfly for metamorphosis might not be original, I love the quote. So I'm going to go ahead and sign and date the back. I did not flip it over to put the pictures on the back because my texture paste was still wet. I did do that eventually, but I had to wait for those gold stars to dry. So here is a better look at the art journal page and a zoom in on those butterflies. And I cannot wait to use more of the images in her books. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a couple of other videos here I think you will like. I've also added that subscribe button. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what gets your creative juices flowing. And have a really fabulous day.